Welcome to what might be the most important conversation of your life. You clicked on this video because something inside you knows that you're capable of more. You're tired of mediocrity. You're tired of watching others succeed while you remain stuck in patterns that keep you ordinary. Today, we're going to explore one of the most powerful concepts ever conceived, monk mode, through the lens of Sun Tzu's timeless wisdom. Sun Tzu, the legendary military strategist who authored The Art of War, understood something fundamental about human nature that most people miss entirely. He knew that the greatest battles are not fought on external battlefields, but within the confines of our own minds. The enemy is not outside. It's the version of yourself that settles for less, that chooses comfort over growth, that prioritizes instant gratification over long-term transformation. When Sun Tzu spoke of strategy, he wasn't just talking about military conquest. He was revealing the blueprint for conquering the most challenging territory of all, yourself. Monk mode is the application of Sun Tzu's strategic principles to personal transformation, and today you're going to learn exactly how the most successful people in the modern world have used this ancient wisdom to completely revolutionize their lives. The foundation: understanding true monk mode. Before we dive into the real-world applications, you need to understand what monk mode actually means. It's not about becoming a hermit or abandoning society. It's about strategic withdrawal from the distractions and temptations that keep you weak, combined with laser-focused commitment to activities that build strength, discipline, and capability. Sun Tzu taught that supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. In monk mode, the enemy is your undisciplined self, and you break its resistance not through force, but through strategic design of your environment and daily practices. You remove the battlefield entirely by eliminating the conditions that allow weakness to flourish. Think about this concept for a moment. Every day, you're bombarded with thousands of micro-decisions that either move you toward your goals or away from them. Each time you choose the easy path, you're training yourself to be weak. Each time you choose the difficult but necessary path, you're building the mental muscle that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. The wealthy and powerful understand this principle at a level most people never reach. They know that willpower is finite, but systems are infinite. They don't rely on motivation. They create conditions that make success inevitable and failure nearly impossible. The strategic withdrawal: learning from modern titans. Let's examine how some of the most successful people in the modern world have applied Sun Tzu's principles through strategic withdrawal and focused discipline. Consider the transformation of David Goggins, a man who went from being overweight and directionless to becoming one of the world's most elite endurance athletes and mental toughness coaches. Goggins didn't achieve this transformation through wishful thinking or positive affirmations. He applied Sun Tzu's principle of knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. Goggins recognized that his greatest enemy was the voice in his head that told him he wasn't capable of greatness. So he declared war on that voice through what he calls the 40% rule, the idea that when your mind tells you you're done, you're actually only 40% done. He entered his own version of monk mode by removing all distractions and focusing entirely on physical and mental conditioning. His daily routine became a strategic campaign against weakness. 4:30 a.m. wake-ups for running. Hours of physical training. Deliberate exposure to discomfort through cold exposure, extreme workouts, and mental challenges. He eliminated television, social media, and any activity that didn't directly contribute to his transformation. This wasn't deprivation, it was strategic elimination of everything that kept him ordinary. The result? Goggins transformed from a 297-pound exterminator into a Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, and Air Force tactical air controller. He became the only person in history to complete this trifecta of military elite training programs. But more importantly, he became living proof that the human mind and body are capable of far more than we typically demand of them. Now, let's look at someone from the business world who applied these same principles. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, has built his entire leadership philosophy around what Sun Tzu would call disciplined preparation. Cook wakes up at 3:45 a.m. every single day, not because he has to, but because he understands that the early morning hours are when the mind is clearest and most focused. Cook's morning routine is a masterclass in monk mode application. He starts with email to clear his mind of urgent but not important tasks. Then he moves to the gym for exactly 1 hour of physical training. This isn't about fitness, it's about mental discipline. The gym becomes his monastery, where he practices the daily ritual of choosing discomfort over comfort, effort over ease. After his workout, Cook spends time in meditation and reflection, planning his day with the strategic precision Sun Tzu would admire. By the time most people are having their first cup of coffee, Cook has already won his first battle of the day, the battle against the part of himself that would prefer to stay comfortable. This routine has remained consistent for over a decade, through the most challenging periods of leading the world's most valuable company. Cook understands that leadership isn't about making occasional great decisions. It's about making thousands of small, disciplined choices that compound into extraordinary results. The elimination strategy. What you remove matters more than what you add. Sun Tzu taught that the supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In modern monk mode, this translates to eliminating the conditions that create internal conflict before they can drain your mental resources. Look at how Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors, applies this principle. Buffett famously lives in the same modest house he bought in 1958, drives older cars, and maintains a lifestyle that most people would consider surprisingly simple for someone worth over $100 billion. This isn't about being cheap. It's about strategic elimination of complexity and distraction. Buffett understands that every decision you make depletes your mental resources. By simplifying his external environment, he preserves his cognitive capacity for the decisions that truly matter, investment choices that can affect millions of people and billions of dollars. His daily routine reflects this philosophy. He wakes up without an alarm, reads for hours, and spends most of his time thinking rather than doing. This approach allowed Buffett to see opportunities that others missed, like his early investments in Coca-Cola and Apple, because his mind wasn't cluttered with unnecessary decisions about what to wear, what to eat, or what to buy. He eliminated the noise so he could hear the signal. The same principle applies to how Jeff Bezos built Amazon. When Bezos was developing Amazon from a garage in Seattle, he entered what could be called startup monk mode. He eliminated every activity that didn't directly contribute to building the company. No social events, no entertainment, no hobbies, just relentless focus on creating the most customer-obsessed company in history. Bezos famously worked 7 days a week, often until midnight, but this wasn't about working more hours. It was about creating a period of intense focus where every action was aligned with a single objective. He understood Sun Tzu's teaching that rapidity is the essence of war in the business world. Speed of execution often determines who wins and who loses. Even after Amazon became successful, Bezos maintained elements of this disciplined approach. He famously keeps his calendar relatively empty, declining most meetings and social obligations to preserve time for deep thinking about the company's long-term strategy. This isn't antisocial behavior, it's strategic resource allocation. The daily battle, how champions structure their days. Sun Tzu emphasized that every battle is won before it is fought. The most successful people understand that their daily routine is where victory or defeat is determined. They don't leave their success to chance or inspiration. They create systems that make extraordinary performance inevitable. Consider the daily practices of Kobe Bryant, whom many consider the ultimate example of monk mode application in sports. Bryant's Mamba mentality was built on a foundation of obsessive daily discipline that most people would find extreme. He woke up at 4 a.m. every day, not because he was naturally an early riser, but because he understood that the early morning hours were when he could work on his craft without distraction. Bryant's training sessions were legendary for their intensity and precision. He didn't just practice basketball. He studied every aspect of the game with the dedication of a scholar. He watched film of opponents for hours, analyzed their weaknesses, and developed specific strategies to exploit them. This wasn't just about physical preparation. It was about mental preparation at a level that separated him from every other player. What made Bryant's approach so effective was his understanding that excellence isn't about doing extraordinary things occasionally. It's about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well, every single day. His shooting practice wasn't random. It was systematic, measured, and progressively challenging. He treated each training session like a sacred ritual, because he understood that champions are made in practice, not in games. This same principle applies to how Elon Musk has approached building multiple revolutionary companies. Musk famously works 80 to 100 hours per week, but the key isn't the number of hours, it's the quality of focus he brings to those hours. Musk has eliminated virtually every activity that doesn't directly contribute to his mission of advancing human civilization through sustainable energy and space exploration. Musk's daily schedule is structured around deep work sessions where he can focus on complex engineering problems without interruption. He doesn't attend social events, doesn't watch television, and has minimal involvement in activities that others might consider normal leisure. This isn't about being a workaholic. It's about understanding that breakthrough innovations require sustained, focused effort over long periods. The result of this approach? Musk has built companies that have revolutionized multiple industries: electric vehicles with Tesla, space exploration with SpaceX, and renewable energy with SolarCity. He's proven that when you apply monk-like discipline to ambitious goals, you can achieve things that others consider impossible. The mental fortress, building unshakable inner strength. Sun Tzu wrote that if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. The most successful people have developed an intimate understanding of their own minds and the mental obstacles that could derail their progress. Look at how Michael Jordan built his mental fortress. Jordan's physical talents were obvious, but what separated him from other gifted athletes was his ability to maintain peak mental performance under pressure. Jordan didn't just accept his competitive nature. He deliberately cultivated it through specific mental practices. Jordan famously created enemies and slights where none existed, not because he was paranoid, but because he understood that his competitive fire was his greatest asset. He would study opponents not just for their basketball skills, but for psychological weaknesses he could exploit. He treated every game like a mental chess match, constantly looking for ways to gain psychological advantage. This mental approach extended beyond basketball. Jordan applied the same competitive intensity to his business ventures, his golf game, and even casual conversations. He understood that mental toughness isn't something you turn on and off. It's a way of being that you cultivate through constant practice. The same principle applies to how Oprah Winfrey built her media empire. Winfrey's success wasn't just about natural charisma or communication skills. It was about developing unshakable inner confidence through deliberate mental conditioning. Winfrey famously practices meditation, journaling, and gratitude exercises not as occasional activities, but as daily non-negotiables. Winfrey's morning routine includes meditation, exercise, and reading, activities that strengthen her mental foundation before she faces the challenges of her day. She understands that her ability to connect with millions of people depends on her ability to maintain clarity and authenticity under pressure. Her success isn't accidental. It's the result of decades of building mental resilience through consistent daily practices. The compound effect: how small disciplines create massive results. Sun Tzu taught that the wise warrior wins first and then goes to war, while the ignorant warrior goes to war first and then seeks to win. The most successful people understand that their daily habits are either compounding in their favor or against them. There's no neutral ground. Consider how Ray Dalio built Bridgewater Associates into the world's largest hedge fund. Dalio's success wasn't based on brilliant individual trades or market timing. It was based on creating systems that could consistently make good decisions over decades. Dalio developed what he calls principles, systematic approaches to decision-making that remove emotion and bias from the equation. Dalio's daily routine reflects this systematic approach. He starts each day with meditation, not because he enjoys it, but because he understands that clear thinking is his most valuable asset. He spends hours each day studying market data, economic trends, and historical patterns, looking for insights that others miss. But the key to Dalio's success isn't any single habit. It's the compound effect of thousands of small, disciplined choices over decades. Each day of meditation builds slightly better decision-making ability. Each day of systematic analysis builds slightly better pattern recognition. Each day of disciplined thinking builds slightly better judgment. After 40 years of this approach, these small improvements have compounded into extraordinary results. Bridgewater manages over $150 billion in assets and has generated more profits for clients than any other hedge fund in history. This isn't luck. It's the inevitable result of applying disciplined systems over long periods. The same principle applies to how Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook. Zuckerberg's success wasn't based on a single brilliant idea. It was based on years of disciplined coding, learning, and iteration. As a teenager, Zuckerberg spent countless hours programming, not because he was forced to, but because he understood that mastery requires sustained effort over time. Zuckerberg's approach to building Facebook reflected this same discipline. He didn't try to build the perfect product immediately. He built a simple version, studied how people used it, and then systematically improved it based on data rather than opinions. This process of constant iteration and improvement, repeated thousands of times over years, created a platform that now connects billions of people. The social dimension, strategic relationships and influence. Sun Tzu understood that the supreme excellence is to win without fighting. In the modern world, this often means building relationships and influence that allow you to achieve your goals through cooperation rather than conflict. Look at how Bill Gates transitioned from being a competitive software entrepreneur to becoming one of the world's most influential philanthropists. Gates didn't just decide to give away his wealth. He applied the same strategic thinking that made Microsoft successful to the challenge of solving global health problems. Gates' approach to philanthropy reflects classic Sun Tzu principles. He studies problems systematically, identifies the most leveraged interventions, and then applies resources strategically to maximize impact. His daily routine includes hours of reading scientific papers, meeting with researchers, and analyzing data about health outcomes in developing countries. But Gates' real genius is in building coalitions and partnerships that multiply his impact. He doesn't just donate money. He brings together governments, corporations, and nonprofits to tackle problems that no single organization could solve alone. This approach has helped reduce childhood mortality, eliminate diseases, and improve educational outcomes for millions of people. The same strategic thinking applies to how Tony Robbins built his influence and impact. Robbins understood early in his career that his success would depend not just on his personal abilities, but on his ability to build relationships with other successful people. He systematically studied successful people, identified the principles they shared, and then applied those principles to his own life. Robbins' daily routine includes physical exercise, meditation, and strategic networking, activities that build his capacity to serve others at a high level. He understands that his ability to help people transform their lives depends on his ability to maintain peak physical and mental condition. His success isn't about natural talent. It's about systematic development of his abilities over decades. The Digital Age Challenge, applying ancient wisdom to modern distractions. Sun Tzu taught that all warfare is based on deception. In the modern world, the greatest deception is the illusion that you can achieve extraordinary results while living an ordinary lifestyle. The most successful people understand that the digital age has created new forms of distraction that require new forms of discipline. Consider how Cal Newport, the computer science professor and author, has applied monk mode principles to academic and creative work. Newport famously doesn't use social media, not because he's anti-technology, but because he understands that attention is his most valuable resource. He's calculated that the brief dopamine hits from social media cost him hours of deep, focused work. Newport's approach to digital minimalism reflects Sun Tzu's principle of strategic positioning. Instead of trying to resist digital distractions through willpower, he eliminates them from his environment entirely. His phone doesn't have social media apps. His computer has specialized software that blocks distracting websites during work hours. His office is designed to minimize interruptions and maximize focus. This approach has allowed Newport to maintain productivity levels that others find impossible. He publishes academic papers, writes best-selling books, teaches university courses, and maintains a podcast, all while working fewer hours than most people because those hours are spent in deep, focused work rather than shallow, distracted activity. The same principle applies to how Tim Ferriss built his personal brand and business empire. Ferriss understood early that the internet was creating new opportunities for people who could cut through the noise and provide genuine value. But he also understood that success in the digital age requires old-fashioned discipline and focus. Ferriss' daily routine includes specific practices designed to maintain mental clarity in a world of information overload. He practices intermittent fasting, not just for physical health, but for mental clarity. He limits his news consumption to specific times and sources. He uses specific technologies to automate routine tasks so he can focus on high-value activities. The physical foundation, why your body determines your success. Sun Tzu wrote that the supreme excellence is to defeat the enemy without fighting. In personal development, this means creating physical conditions that make mental excellence inevitable rather than hoping for motivation to strike. Look at how The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, has built his success across multiple industries. Johnson's physical training isn't just about looking good. It's about building the mental discipline that carries over into every other area of his life. Johnson wakes up at 4 a.m. every day for his workout, not because he loves exercise, but because he understands that physical discipline builds mental discipline. Johnson's approach to fitness reflects Sun Tzu's principles of preparation and consistency. He doesn't rely on motivation. He has systems that make working out inevitable. His home gym is set up the night before. His workout clothes are laid out. His nutrition is planned and prepared. He's eliminated every excuse that could prevent him from training. This physical discipline has created mental toughness that allowed Johnson to transition from professional wrestling to becoming one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors and successful business entrepreneurs. His success isn't about natural talent. It's about applying systematic discipline to every area of his life. The same principle applies to how Richard Branson built Virgin into a global brand. Branson famously starts each day with exercise, often kitesurfing or tennis, not because he's obsessed with fitness, but because he understands that physical energy creates mental energy. He's calculated that his morning exercise routine gives him 4 additional hours of productive mental energy throughout the day. Branson's approach to physical fitness reflects his approach to business: systematic, consistent, and focused on long-term results rather than short-term gratification. He doesn't exercise when he feels like it. He exercises according to a schedule that supports his broader goals and responsibilities. The mental training: developing unshakable focus. Sun Tzu taught that the clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy and does not require too much from individuals. The most successful people understand that mental training is just as important as physical training, and they develop specific practices to strengthen their minds. Consider how Phil Jackson, the legendary basketball coach, applied meditation and mindfulness to coaching some of the greatest athletes in history. Jackson understood that basketball success at the highest level wasn't just about physical skills, it was about mental clarity under pressure. He introduced meditation practices to players like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, not as New Age philosophy, but as practical tools for maintaining focus during critical moments. Jackson's approach to mental training reflected Sun Tzu's understanding of psychological warfare. He studied not just basketball strategy, but the mental patterns that determine success and failure under pressure. He developed specific practices to help players maintain emotional equilibrium during the chaos of playoff games. The result? Jackson won 11 NBA championships as a coach, more than any other coach in history. His success wasn't based on superior X's and O's, it was based on developing players who could maintain peak mental performance when it mattered most. The same principle applies to how Naval Ravikant built his reputation as one of Silicon Valley's most successful investors and thinkers. Ravikant practices meditation not as a spiritual practice, but as mental training that improves his decision-making ability. He understands that his success depends on his ability to think clearly about complex problems, and meditation is a tool that enhances that ability. Ravikant's approach to mental training extends beyond meditation. He reads extensively, not for entertainment, but to build mental models that help him understand how the world works. He deliberately seeks out ideas that challenge his existing beliefs, because he understands that intellectual comfort is the enemy of intellectual growth. The economic dimension: how discipline creates wealth. Sun Tzu wrote that rapidity is the essence of war. In the economic realm, this translates to understanding that wealth is created through systematic value creation over time, not through get-rich-quick schemes or hoping for lucky breaks. Look at how Dave Ramsey built his financial education empire. Ramsey's approach to personal finance reflects Sun Tzu's principle of winning through superior preparation rather than hoping for favorable circumstances. Ramsey teaches people to eliminate debt, build emergency funds, and invest systematically, not because these strategies are exciting, but because they work consistently over time. Ramsey's own daily routine reflects these principles. He lives below his means, despite being worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He invests systematically rather than trying to time markets. He focuses on building assets that generate passive income rather than just earning more money through active work. The key to Ramsey's success isn't any single financial strategy. It's the compound effect of making disciplined financial decisions consistently over decades. Each month of living below his means builds slightly more financial security. Each year of systematic investing builds slightly more wealth. Each decade of disciplined choices builds exponentially more financial freedom. The same principle applies to how Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner, built his wealth and reputation. Munger's approach to investing reflects Sun Tzu's emphasis on patience and preparation. Munger spends hours each day reading and thinking, not because he enjoys it, but because he understands that superior investment returns come from superior understanding of business fundamentals. Munger famously says that he's never met a successful investor who wasn't a voracious reader. This isn't about being intellectual. It's about understanding that investment success requires constantly updating your mental models based on new information and changing circumstances. The creativity dimension. How discipline unlocks innovation. Sun Tzu taught that all warfare is based on deception. In the creative realm, this means understanding that breakthrough creativity comes from disciplined practice and systematic exploration, not from waiting for inspiration to strike. Consider how Jerry Seinfeld built his comedy career through what he calls the chain, a systematic approach to writing comedy material. Seinfeld writes jokes every single day, not because he always feels inspired, but because he understands that creativity is a muscle that gets stronger through regular exercise. He marks each day on a calendar when he writes material, creating a chain of X's that he doesn't want to break. Seinfeld's approach to creativity reflects Sun Tzu's principle of consistent preparation. He doesn't try to write perfect jokes immediately. He writes lots of material, tests it in front of audiences, and systematically improves based on what works and what doesn't. This process of constant creation and refinement, repeated thousands of times over decades, has made him one of the most successful comedians in history. The same principle applies to how John Grisham built his career as a best-selling novelist. Grisham didn't wait for inspiration to strike. He wrote every day before work, often getting up at 5 a.m. to write for an hour before going to his job as a lawyer. He understood that professional writers write whether they feel inspired or not, because inspiration comes from working, not from waiting. Grisham's first novel took 3 years to write, working 1 hour at a time before dawn. But once he established this disciplined routine, he was able to write a book every year for decades. His success isn't about natural talent. It's about applying systematic discipline to the creative process. The leadership dimension. How personal discipline creates influence. Sun Tzu wrote that he who knows when to fight and when not to fight will be victorious. The most effective leaders understand that their personal discipline creates the credibility and influence that allows them to lead others effectively. Look at how Jocko Willink, the former Navy SEAL commander, has applied military discipline to leadership development. Willink's approach to leadership reflects Sun Tzu's understanding that leaders must first lead themselves before they can lead others. Willink wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every day for physical training, not because he's required to, but because he understands that his ability to lead others depends on his ability to maintain personal discipline. Willink's daily routine creates the mental toughness and clarity that allows him to make difficult decisions under pressure. His physical training isn't just about fitness. It's about proving to himself every day that he can do difficult things when he doesn't feel like doing them. This daily practice of choosing discipline over comfort builds the character that others want to follow. The same principle applies to how Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, has built his leadership reputation. Jassy's success isn't based on charisma or natural leadership ability. It's based on systematic preparation and consistent execution. Jassy spends hours each day studying customer data, market trends, and operational metrics, not because he enjoys spreadsheets, but because he understands that leadership credibility comes from deep understanding of the business. Jassy's approach to leadership reflects Sun Tzu's emphasis on knowing the terrain before engaging in battle. He doesn't make decisions based on hunches or instincts. He makes decisions based on systematic analysis of data and careful consideration of long-term consequences. The relationship dimension. How discipline improves connections. Sun Tzu taught that the supreme excellence is to win without fighting. In relationships, this means developing the personal qualities that naturally attract others and create genuine connection, rather than trying to manipulate or impress people. Consider how Will Smith built his career and personal brand through what he calls relentless improvement. Smith's approach to relationships reflects Sun Tzu's understanding that your reputation is your most valuable asset. Smith spends time each day working on personal development, not because he's insecure, but because he understands that his ability to connect with others depends on his ability to be genuinely interesting and valuable. Smith's daily routine includes reading, physical exercise, and practicing gratitude, activities that build the positive mental state that others find attractive. He doesn't try to be charming. He becomes someone who naturally radiates positive energy through systematic personal development. The same principle applies to how Oprah Winfrey built her media empire through authentic connection with audiences. Winfrey's success isn't based on media manipulation or marketing tricks. It's based on developing genuine empathy and understanding that allows her to connect with people from all backgrounds. Winfrey's daily practices include meditation, journaling, and reading, activities that deepen her understanding of human nature and build her capacity for authentic connection. She doesn't try to be relatable. She becomes someone who genuinely understands and cares about others through systematic development of her emotional intelligence. The spiritual dimension, finding meaning through discipline. Sun Tzu wrote that the supreme excellence is to defeat the enemy without fighting. In spiritual development, this means creating conditions that naturally cultivate inner peace and purpose, rather than constantly struggling against negative thoughts and emotions. Look at how Russell Simmons built his business empire while maintaining spiritual practices that kept him grounded. Simmons practices meditation not as religious obligation, but as practical tool for maintaining mental clarity and emotional equilibrium. He understands that his business success depends on his ability to make decisions from a place of inner peace rather than anxiety or fear. Simmons' daily routine includes meditation, yoga, and gratitude practices, activities that build the inner foundation that supports outer success. He doesn't separate his spiritual practices from his business activities. He sees them as complementary aspects of an integrated life. The same principle applies to how Arianna Huffington built her media company while maintaining practices that prevent burnout and maintain well-being. Huffington's approach to work-life integration reflects Sun Tzu's understanding that sustainable success requires taking care of your most important resource, yourself. Huffington's daily routine includes specific practices designed to maintain energy and focus, adequate sleep, regular exercise, and time for reflection and planning. She doesn't see these activities as separate from work. She sees them as essential components of professional effectiveness. The legacy dimension, building something that lasts. Sun Tzu taught that the supreme excellence is to win without fighting. In terms of legacy, this means building something of lasting value rather than just accumulating short-term achievements or material possessions. Consider how Steve Jobs built Apple into a company that continues to innovate and influence culture decades after his death. Jobs' approach to product development reflected Sun Tzu's understanding that true victory comes from creating conditions that make success inevitable, rather than relying on individual brilliance or lucky breaks. Jobs' daily routine was built around systematic pursuit of excellence in every detail. He didn't just focus on technology. He focused on the entire user experience, from packaging to marketing to customer service. This obsessive attention to detail, practiced consistently over decades, created products that people don't just use but love. The same principle applies to how Warren Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway into a company that embodies his values and principles. Buffett's approach to business reflects Sun Tzu's understanding that the best leaders create systems that work regardless of who's in charge. Buffett has built a company culture based on integrity, long-term thinking, and rational decision-making that will continue long after he's gone. The integration, bringing it all together. Now that you understand how the most successful people have applied Sun Tzu's principles through modern monk mode, let's talk about how you can integrate these concepts into your own life. The key is understanding that transformation doesn't happen through dramatic changes. It happens through small, consistent improvements compounded over time. The first step is honest self-assessment. Sun Tzu emphasized knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. Your enemy isn't other people. It's the version of yourself that chooses comfort over growth, immediate gratification over long-term success, and mediocrity over excellence. You need to identify the specific habits, thought patterns, and environmental factors that keep you ordinary. The second step is strategic elimination. Before you add new habits or practices, you need to remove the activities that drain your energy without providing value. This might mean eliminating social media, reducing television consumption, or saying no to social obligations that don't align with your goals. Remember, what you don't do is often more important than what you do. The third step is systematic construction of new habits. Based on the examples we've discussed, identify the daily practices that will build the capabilities you need for your specific goals. This might include earlier wake-up times, regular exercise, systematic learning, or specific skills development. The key is starting small and building consistency before increasing intensity. The fourth step is environmental design. Create conditions that make success inevitable and failure difficult. This might mean setting up your environment the night before, removing temptations from your space, or surrounding yourself with people who support your goals rather than undermine them. The fifth step is measurement and adjustment. Track your progress not just in terms of results, but in terms of consistency with your daily practices. Sun Tzu emphasized the importance of accurate intelligence. You need reliable data about what's working and what isn't, so you can make strategic adjustments. The transformation timeline. What to expect? Understanding the timeline of transformation is crucial for maintaining motivation and realistic expectations. The most successful people understand that change happens in phases, each with its own challenges and rewards. The first phase, lasting approximately 30 days, is about establishing basic consistency. During this period, you're building the neural pathways that will make your new habits automatic. This is often the most challenging phase because you're fighting against years of established patterns. The key is focusing on consistency rather than intensity. It's better to do something small every day than something big occasionally. The second phase, lasting approximately 90 days, is about building momentum and refining your systems. During this period, your new habits start feeling more natural, and you begin to see measurable improvements in your capabilities. This is when you can start increasing the intensity or complexity of your practices. The third phase, lasting approximately 1 year, is about achieving mastery and integration. During this period, your new habits become part of your identity rather than something you have to remember to do. You start seeing compound effects. Improvements in one area begin supporting improvements in other areas. The fourth phase, lasting several years, is about sustained excellence and continuous improvement. During this period, you join the ranks of people who make extraordinary performance look effortless because they've made it automatic through years of disciplined practice. The mindset shift, from victim to victor. The most important transformation that happens during monk mode isn't physical or external, it's mental. You shift from seeing yourself as someone who things happen to someone who makes things happen. This mindset shift is what separates people who achieve their goals from those who just talk about them. Sun Tzu wrote that victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. When you apply monk mode principles, you win the battle in your mind before you face external challenges. You develop the confidence that comes from knowing you've prepared systematically and can handle whatever comes. This inner transformation affects every aspect of your life. You start making decisions based on your goals rather than your emotions. You start seeing obstacles as opportunities to build strength rather than reasons to quit. You start attracting opportunities and relationships that support your growth rather than settling for whatever comes your way. The ripple effect, how your transformation affects others. One of the most powerful aspects of applying monk mode principles is how your transformation affects the people around you. When you develop genuine discipline and capability, you become a positive influence that elevates others rather than someone who needs to be carried. Your family relationships improve because you become more present and capable of contributing value. Your professional relationships improve because you become more reliable and productive. Your friendships improve because you become someone who inspires others to be better rather than someone who encourages mediocrity. This ripple effect is one of the most rewarding aspects of personal transformation. You discover that by focusing on becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally become a positive force in the lives of others. You don't have to try to help people. You help them by example. The long-term vision, what your life could become. As we near the end of our time together, let's talk about what your life could become if you apply these principles consistently over time. The most successful people aren't just achieving their original goals. They're becoming capable of goals they never thought possible. When you develop genuine discipline and capability, you start operating at a level where extraordinary results become normal. You start seeing opportunities that others miss because your mind is clear and focused. You start attracting people and circumstances that support your growth because you've become someone worth knowing. Your relationship with challenges changes completely. Instead of avoiding difficult situations, you start seeking them out because you understand that your greatest growth comes